should we move on to Morbius? I think we've
Morbius.
Sure.
I'm excited. I'm very. I was hoping that Hoffman was going to be here ready
I know.
to slay, but unfortunately we're going to have to kind of just give you our thoughts and see what you think. Do you plan to see the movie like next week or?
It's on my list if I can get to it, but I'm gonna be slammed. Like maybe on Saturday I can go see it.
Yeah, like
Okay.
Again, I don't think you're not missing much, to be honest. And I think if you're okay for us to kind of do a little bit of a spoiler filled conversation about it, you might not even need to go see it. Guys, I'll just give anyone in the chat or anyone who's listening to us just a bit of a spoiler warning. So we're going to be talking about the Morbius movie that just came out on the 1st of April, which I thought was a very funny release date for the movie as well. Releasing it on April Fool's Day I thought was quite funny. But yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, maybe just mute the tab or skip forward and catch up on it when you've seen the film. But Alex, talk to us. I want to hear what you have to say first. I know we've kind of spoke a little bit in DMs.
You're right.
Go for it.
Well, so I know that the majority of the people think that this is a dumpster fire, but I really think that they're looking so hard into this that they don't realize that it's just a normal movie that did okay. And it's not as bad as you think. It's really not that bad. The biggest parts that I would say are the worst are the fight scenes. And that's mainly it. There maybe were a couple of the cheesy moments, but like I believed Morbius. But I didn't necessarily believe the villain that he had to deal with, but like I really liked Jared Leto's like portrayal of Morbius. And it was much more modern. It didn't feel like an old school way. Like we didn't get all of a sudden like, oh no, I am a vampire. And then we get like, and then like you get the suction cup hands like in the animated no, we don't need that.
Yeah.
Just have him being like a normal like dude who's afflicted with the vampire virus that makes him like supernaturally strong. But they went with kind of like with the comic book feel of it, because in the comics he's actually like upset at the fact that he's afflicted with this and he wants to get, find a way to control it or even get rid of it or reverse it. And you feel that. But like the way that the villain kind of comes out, in a sense, it felt a little rushed. Like how the hell did he get a part of the serum so that he could also become a vampire? Yeah. Like how did that happen? Like we didn't see him take the vial, and I don't recall him like knowing which vial would actually be useful.
Yeah. Like
just because you see a little thing, I guess you could just experiment with stuff like that. But that kind of like messed me up a little bit. But yeah, the fight scenes were so like, it's like that super shaky cam Hoffman that's so annoying. It's so bad. Like it's just, that's the part that really hurt me was like there was so much smoke all over the place. There, like the slow-mo scenes didn't need to be there. The fight didn't feel like believable. Everything just felt like rushed at that point.
I think there needed to be more fucking slow motion stuff, because the fight scenes were so fast that your brain couldn't like fucking figure it out. Like there was just like, it was just teleporting across scenes, and there was like when they teleport, like they leave smoke behind them, so it just felt like motion blur for the whole fucking thing. Like you couldn't make it out until it slowed down, and then you're like, okay, Morbius is on top here or whatever. Like, but it was just awful. It was really, really bad.
It was so awful.
Yeah.
But you know what would have fixed that? Like even besides like the slow-mo, pulling the camera back. Stop zooming in on them while they're fighting. I don't need to think of like try to imagine what the hell they're doing. I can see it. Just pull the camera back, please.
Yeah.
I don't care if there's smoke all over the place and they're just like rolling around. Like pull the camera back.
Yeah.
So I can see all of them.
Do you think this has to do with their budget? Like they only had $75 million on this film, which is kind of low for a kind of modern comic book action film right now.
Yeah.
I think they typically like give you about $150 million to like run and do your thing with. And that's a lot of like CG work that's missing out, that if, maybe the reason that they're so zoomed in is they didn't have the money to do the CG for the camera pulled back.
It absolutely absolutely felt that way. It really did.
It really did make sense with that.
Yeah. Like I gotta say, like, to be honest, right? Like I went in and sat down, and I was thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna fucking hate this from the minute go. Like I'm gonna be just going crazy. And I actually really enjoyed the first 30 minutes of the movie. I thought it was like really interesting. I really liked Jared Leto's performance. Like the flashbacks to when he was a kid was great, and just kind of like seeing him like sick and everything. I thought they explained it all very well. The pacing was going great. You meet his best friend, and you know, it all made sense. It was great, you know. And then, you know, he becomes a vampire and stuff, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, this isn't a comic book movie. This doesn't feel like a Marvel movie, right? I'm just kind of viewing it and watching it as like a vampire movie. And if you kind of think of it as like a horror, like vampire movie, it's on par with other vampire content in my eyes. Like, you know, I'm like, this is what it is. Like, you know, you go into a horror movie, like I'm watching Scream, for example. Like, I know what my expectations are. Like, you know, it's a Scream movie. I'm not expecting a fucking blockbuster. Like, and I think that too many people are going into this thinking that this is a sequel to No Way Home or something like that. Like, and it's like, it's not. It's never going to be. Like, you know, it just doesn't even feel like it's a fucking comic book movie.
Well, whose fault is that?
No, I know. I'm well aware.
You know?
I'm well aware. But I think this is like, I think that's the main crux of like why the film is doing so poorly, because everyone just thinks that, okay, Sony are able to make like No Way Home, and now it's like, hang on a second, they've put out this piece of shit, you know? And it's just like, how do you go from the top of the ladder to the very bottom? Like, you know, it doesn't make any sense. I liked Matt Smith in the movie. I thought he was good. His acting was great, but I just hated the character. I hated what they did with it. And this seems to be just what Sony is doing. Like every single movie, Venom, it's like they bring in another symbiote to fight him. So it's like it's like an exact copy of the main character, but he's just a little bit more evil, which makes the main character turn into the hero. Like, but it's like he's not a hero. He's like he's a villain. Like, you know. Whereas it's like halfway through this movie, his best friend basically takes the serum. Morbius is like, I'm gonna find a cure for the two of us. We're gonna walk. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna live normal lives. And basically takes the serum, becomes the vampire, and instantly regrets it. He's like, I've destroyed my life. This is a curse. Blah blah blah. So the best friend's like, give me the serum, and he's like, I can't do this to you. Like, this is a curse. Like, you know. So he basically takes it upon himself to turn, and then becomes an even more like vicious vampire than Morbius. So then it's like Morbius now has to take out the villain. Like, you know, it's just classic fucking Sony. And it was just, they didn't need to go there. I just thought they should have kept the story about Morbius and not have him turn into a hero when he's a fucking fugitive on the run. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, I just didn't like it at all. And then, like, he has a love interest in it, and she dies, but she turns as well. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is turning into fucking Twilight. Like, there's so many vampires running around now. I was like, this is fucking crazy. Like, you know? Go on.
So the only saving grace with that, Finto, and you know, I understand if, like, you feel that strongly about the fact that, like, there's too many vampires rolling in, is they really did try to go with the comic story, because there was someone who managed to become a vampire, and Morbius fought them, and they had a similar name, so they used that kind of role, because he did, like in the comics, he actually kills his best friend by accident after taking the serum and changing. So like and then Martine is actually in the comics, and she does become a vampire, and so like maybe they rushed it. Maybe that was the thing, is that they just rushed it, and it's like Hoffman said. Yeah, it's like Hoffman said, they only had what, 75 million. Mm-hmm. So with that amount of money, like what can you do? Like what, like, and that's the thing, is like that's one of the first villains that he ever encounters, is someone who also wanted to be a vampire. So like it made sense, but I totally get that, you know, because it was rushed, because we didn't really get a chance to really care too much about the other characters, that it just became a little more lackluster. And that's why I say, like, the movie's fine, but it's not like, oh my God, I want to see this again. It's just, it's okay.
So, like,
when you say
again,
it was rushed, were they just moving through everything too fast? Like, do you think they like trimmed the scenes down? Like, someone at Sony was like, "Hey, we need to take off 30 seconds of every scene." Like, do you think if they added that, it would made it feel better?
Like, so the moments with Jared Leto didn't feel rushed at all. Everything that happened with Jared Leto up until the point when Matt Smith took, like, as his character took the serum, felt comfortable. It felt like it was taking time to let you know, like, the feelings, the why he wants to do this, and you know what his motivations are to make things better, especially because he knows he has someone else that he wants to save in his life. And so, but once Matt Smith takes the serum, it's like we're kicking it in an overdrive. Let's go, fights. Like, and it's just no way. Gotcha. Like, dude, you need to give it time.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, I think if they kept the story, as I said, if they just kept the story about Morbius, I think it would have flowed a lot better on screen. You know, it's just it got a bit ridiculous, like because like, you know, I really like the pacing of, like, you know, he gets, you know, the cops are after him because he's killing people and stuff like that. Like, and it's like, yes, he's a villain, he's a monster, he's a vampire. And then it's like, the cops find out that it was actually Matt Smith's character who killed someone, and basically he got blamed for it. And they're like, oh my God, there's another one. Okay, like now it's like they're not even trying to catch Morbius anymore. And it's like, now he's a good guy, he's been redeemed. And it's like, does Morbius need, like, a redemption? I don't think so. Like, I think, like, you know, he's still going to be a monster and a villain. But now it's like the way that they've like kind of like focus the storyline is like, now he's a hero. And then to jump to the very end of the movie, we get two fucking absolutely ridiculous after credit scenes, which again, yes, throughout the entire movie, it's a vampire movie. It's nothing to do with any like comic book fucking Marvel kind of storyline that we've ever seen before. And then, you know, it's its own thing, and it's good for what it is or whatever. Like, if you're into vampires, like, I love vampire movies and stuff, so I was quite enjoying it. It wasn't bad. Like, it was, some parts I was like, Jesus, I can't believe they've done this. Like, this is just awful. But for the most part, it was fine. You know, yeah. And then when they just literally the credits roll, it's like, you know, everything happens. Like, they put down the villain, blah blah blah. You know, it's like off they go, happy into the sunset. And then, like, the first after credit scene happens, and you just see a panning shot of New York, and Doctor Strange's purple spell just goes into the sky, and then Adrian Toomes just appears in a fucking cell and turns around and just goes, I hope the food's better here. And then that's it. And then credits roll again. And you're just like, oh
my God.
And you're like, hang on, like, I'm like, how, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's like when Strange, like, does, like, the crack open and, like, the purple, like, we see all the villains and stuff, like, how does that send Adrian Toomes to another universe? It makes zero sense. Like, that wasn't what Strange was trying to do. Like, that wasn't the spell. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I don't know. It pisses me off so much, like, I can't even explain.
So, I think it's important to bring up, like, the time frame of this movie. Like, Vincent Roth in chat says 3 years to make this movie. It got pushed back for 3 years, right?
That's true, yeah.
So how do you think that affects the production of it? Like, do you think they add those scenes in because of it? Do you know, with the No Way Home tie-in, or do you think that was absent from the original cut?
I think this is Sony again, literally trying to do what they did with Venom 2. That they kind of successfully did it at the end of Venom 2, where they showed Tom Holland. People were excited about that, and it was interesting, right? And I think it's just like, okay, now we need to kind of reference No Way Home somehow. So it's like, let's shoot a scene very last minute, and because it's known, like, you know, Michael Keaton was only, like, doing talk shows a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, oh, I'm shooting some Vulture stuff at the moment. And it's like, that's what he was doing. He was shooting. That's why they kind of pushed the movie back yet again. Like, these scenes were only shot a couple of weeks ago. So obviously they needed to see the movie. They got all the fucking special effects of, like, the purple skies and stuff like that, and just added it into the very end of their movie. Like, and it just makes zero sense. It's not the spell. The spell was done to put people back, not send people to a different place. You know what I mean? And if his mind should have been wiped as well, and Toomes is like, so basically he makes just that stupid joke, and then it goes to a second scene where we see Morbius driving a fucking swanky Porsche through the desert, and it's like, where's he going? What's he doing here? Like, what the hell's happening? Just pulls up at the side of the road and is looking out into the distance, and we see Vulture flying towards him, and Vulture literally pulls up and he's like, "Hey Doc, how's it going? I'm looking to put together a team here, and I know I'm here for some reason. I think it's something to do with SpiderMan." And it just the last shot, it just turns to Leto and he just goes, "Intriguing," and then it just ends.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's just the weirdest moment ever, because
it just makes no sense.
There's literally no reason.
You've spent the whole movie trying to redeem Leto's character and make him a hero, and now he's just joined the Sinister Six. Like, I'm like, what?
Right? Yeah. And that's the thing is like now that I think about it, we didn't need Matt Smith's character.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying.
All he needed to just be a villain escaping the cops and trying to figure out how to fix the serum thing before he has to start taking blood.
Exactly.
And then it just reaches to a penultimate point where like he has to escape. It's like the Hulk. You just like he has to leave, but he's becoming like overcome with the thirst for blood. In which case, it makes him into more of a villain.
Yeah,
because he still hasn't figured out how to cure it.
I enjoyed that part. Like there's throughout the whole movie, Hoffman, like he's so basically the storyline is that he invented this artificial blood, which was helping obviously people who had his condition because they need like blood transfusions every 4 hours or something crazy. So he ends up developing this own like blood, which is like manufactured and given to people. So basically, when he first turns, I think he like obviously gets a taste for human blood, turns into a monster, starts slaying people, but then realizes he can drink the artificial stuff. So he starts like timing himself and just starving himself and seeing how long he can go without it and stuff. And then he notices his tolerance is going down and down and down. So as you're following him, he's trying to be good. He's trying to not kill people. But the tolerance to the fake stuff is going down and down. And I'm like, this is interesting. I'm like, what's going to happen when it gets down to, when he has to drink human blood or he's going to die? And I'm like thinking, okay, that's what's going to happen. And he's going to go ballistic. And then it's like, okay, he is the villain. But then it's like they kind of scrap that story towards the end because they just make his best friend turn into a villain that he has to take down. Like, it's just... Oh,
I love that they made him an intermittent fasting vampire.
Yeah.
Like, he was struggling,
man.
How
long could I go?
Yeah. I felt kind of bad for him in that scene.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my god.
But Leto's performance, I think, was good. Like, I thought he was good, and I felt sorry for Jared Leto because I'm like, this movie's gonna tank, and I'm like, it's not his fault. He actually put on a really good performance, and the scenes of him before he takes the serum, you believed he was really sick, and he just acted really well, and I think it was kind of him maybe pulling on his performance in Dallas Buyers Club, which was legendary, you know what I mean? Like he's like all frail and skinny and he's walking around like you believed it, and it was just great. As I say, the first 30 minutes of the movie were really good. Like I turned to my girlfriend during the movie, I was like, I'm actually enjoying this. Like she wasn't, but I was like, I'm actually enjoying this.
I love that you felt really comfortable talking in a movie theater because no one else was there.
It was actually the funny thing was my girlfriend was freezing because they had we're in one of the biggest screens in the country, and when it's full it gets really hot in the place, but it was only at half capacity because obviously people don't want to see the movie because they fucking hear that it's tanking or whatever. So the screen wasn't even sold out, so she was fucking shivering in her seat, like freezing, because they were pumping in. Obviously the AC is probably on a timer or whatever. I think probably someone went out to complain because I actually felt it switch off. I thought it was hilarious.
Well, but going back to the post credits scene, the only thing I would say for the whole idea of the spell is for the fact that it's a chaotic spell at that point because it went out of proportion. It caused all this energy to flash out, and maybe it hit Toombs at a point. And I'm not trying to justify it that much. I think it's still a very dumb situation, but at the very least, it you can think of it like, oh, it was a chaotic spell that occurred. He encased it, but it might have hit someone. It might have hit someone, and it happened to be a vulture, which is the weirdest character to pull into Andrew Garfield's MCU.
But,
it's mind-boggling because and then when he popped in, it made me laugh so hard when he said about the food, but not because it was funny, but because they really went with a comic book style way of oh, I'm here now, okay, I'm gonna start causing chaos.
So I love that you brought up Andrew Garfield. Is this still the universe you want Andrew Garfield to come into?
Well, this is the thing, right? So the director had said during the week that this movie doesn't belong to any universe that we've seen so far, right? So my question is, where the fuck did Toomes get the suit from, right? And someone said, and I thought this was a great shout, but someone said, because you know the way I think there was like a post-credit scene at the end of Andrew's second film where they showed the Sinister Six. I think it was like, you know, they kind of like tried to tease the Sinister Six, and you saw a wingsuit, and people were saying like, oh, he's obviously gotten that wingsuit. But I'm like, the director has said that this is not Andrew's universe. So where is he getting the suit? And the suit does look a little different. So I'm like, maybe it is that. So I like, honestly, the thing is such a mess that even the official people behind the film are giving like different fucking answers to questions that they're being asked over time. Like, he was like, the director was only asked during the week, like, what happened with the Toby reference, and he goes, I never shot that scene. That was not in the movie when I shot it. That was not in any trailers that I saw. So he's saying that the director of the fucking film is saying that when that trailer was originally released, somebody in the trailer house or whoever like developed that trailer added that fucking like graffiti of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in the background against the director's will. He's like, I never shot it. It was never part of my movie. Like, so is that true?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Is that it's true? If it's true, it's crazy. If that's false, it's also crazy. Like, there's no good scenario with this story. Like, it's craziness no matter which way you look at it.
My speculation is that it's the Sony production team. It's got to be them wanting to correlate everything within whatever it is they made, especially because of the success of No Way Home. They didn't want to have a standalone anymore. Like, it's just like with the end of Venom 2, they showed, like, you know, the events of No Way Home occurring, and then like they're like, well, we got to piggyback off of that because obviously Marvel does a really good job of doing that with their MCU movies. Mm-hmm. And so like it's just Sony trying to piggyback off of what the MCU does and try to see if they can match that kind of like hype of like, oh my God, it's Vulture and they're going to make a Sinister Six, basically. How would you like to team up and do this and have a new movie where we fight, you know, Spider-Man and he has to somehow get stronger? You know, like it doesn't fit well because, you know, obviously nobody likes the idea that Vulture popped in because of the chaos of that spell. Yeah. Like I think it should have been someone more iconic. Like if it was Electro, maybe that would have been a little bit more understanding. But even then, Electro kind of wants to just be left alone and do his own thing.
Like, you're right, and it just goes to show you how much Sony like are fucking idiots. Like, they literally got no one at the top, right, who understands these characters, their motivations, and how to do this as a universe. It's crazy how, you know, I think this thing, it opened up like 35 million over the weekend when it was projected to do like 700 million. Like, how do you only do 39 million coming off the back of No Way Home, coming off the back of the Batman? Like, people are not burnt out on superhero movies. People are loving these movies if they're done right. But then it comes along Sony with this director, and they make Morbius, and like barely anyone goes see it because it sucks. Yeah. Like, they had a review embargo up until 12 hours before people can go see this movie. That's a ridiculous review embargo. And it just highlights that they have zero idea how to make good superhero films at this point. Like, they're so far off the mark.
And they have zero confidence in doing so, which is why they had the embargo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like they knew his shit. Like they knew it.
Because I was like on the kind of press tour, kind of going up to the movie. I was like listening to a couple of interviews with Jared Leto, like, and you know, he seemed quite confident in the movie, and I'm like, is he just, you know, trying to put a positive spin on it or something like that? But after seeing it, I kind of think to myself, like, you know, I think maybe he did think that and I think, to be fair, he did put on a good performance himself. So I think he probably is kind of proud of what he's done. But I think this movie should have come out 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And I think if it came out 2 years ago, it would have been released before Let There Be Carnage and stuff like that, and it might have hit a little better. You know, after Venom 1, bringing out something like this, and then you do Venom 2, I think it probably would have been better, like, you know. And then, like they had that scene with like Michael Keaton where him and Morbius cross paths and they're both in the jumpsuits and it's like, hey Doc, we should keep in touch, like, and that was in the trailer that was only released like 3 months ago, and that wasn't even in the film. Like they cut that again. Like it's like, what do they do? Like they don't even know what they're doing. Like they're releasing trailers and then 3 months later like taking out the main scene. And I think that's, again, this is another problem that people are having, is the whole kind of press tour of this film was a complete misdirect. They had like Toby references and they had, Toomes and Morbius having like screen time together, and where it might have made a little more sense. And then they just go and scrap absolutely everything and then just reshoot it and put in these 2 scenes that were just absolute nonsense. Like the worst scenes I've ever seen. Just made no fucking sense. Like Morbius at the end, intriguing. Like it's like he's been fighting for this entire movie to be a good man, and then like a guy flies up to him in a mechanical suit, mentions Spider-Man, and he just goes, intriguing. Like what?
Yeah.
Like, who at Sony thinks it's a good idea to do the Sinister Six? I'm not on board with that being a great idea. Like the Sinister Six are great because of Spider-Man, because they got someone to go up against, right?
Exactly.
Like the Sinister Six should be like the culmination of all the Spider-Man movies in the MCU. Like they should do 6 Spider-Man movies and then do the Sinister Six. Like that's what it should have been. It shouldn't just be this whole, hey, we're gonna do an individual villain origin story for each of these Sinister Six. Like, who wants to go see that? Like, what's the purpose of a Morbius movie? Who are you supposed to be rooting for? And then that person you're rooting for just goes and joins the Sinister Six and is like, what, trying to kill Spider-Man? Like, who wants to go see that film where they're trying to kill Spider-Man? Like, you're on Spider-Man's side. I don't, like, who?
Yeah.
Who's this for?
They generated anti-heroes when they needed villains. Yeah. And that's the biggest problem of all with Sony and their production, is that they don't understand just what Hoffman said. Just make them villains. Exactly. Just like give them like, if you're going to make a movie about them, let them be villains. Stop making them into heroes.
Yeah.
Like Morbius is not a misunderstood anti-hero when he's drinking people's blood. Yeah. He's the villain. Yeah. He's killing people and drinking their blood.
Yeah. He's putting their hands on their faces and using their suction cups to get the blood out.
Oh my god.
Like I loved the story of Morbius in like the animated series when, Spider-Man feels responsible because some of his DNA got into the testing, and Spider-Man thinks like, it's because of his radioactive blood that it turned Morbius into what he was, and I think that like makes sense. Like, that's a story that you can get behind, because it's like Peter wants to try and help him, but like Morbius, like, he feels guilty about it, whereas this is just Morbius himself did everything. This is all his own fault, it's all his own doing. It's just it's a villain. It should be a villain story, as you're saying, like, absolutely. And the formation of the Sinister Six is to take out Spider-Man, and they're doing it without Spider-Man. They tried to do this around the time of like Andrew's second film. They were gearing up to have him fight a Sinister Six, and they rushed it. They was too quick, and it failed. Everyone hated it, and now it's like, let's do it again. It's like, oh, maybe now it'll work, because like, we've got a multiverse and all this shit. But it's like, it's still not going to work. It's not ready. Like, you need to have a Spider-Man. You need to have him go up against a couple of these Sinister Six. And then you have to have them come together and go, let's form a team to take out this fucking punk, because we can't beat him by ourselves. That's the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
Sony.
Could you imagine a Spider-Man, like in the MCU, where the post-credit scenes for all the Spider-Man movies are like, it's oh god, there's too many M's. Who's the Far From Home guy? Jake Gyllenhaal's character.
Mysterio.
Mysterio. Yeah. Like, what if it's like Mysterio is going around and like he's playing the Sam Jackson role, and at the end of all these like Spider-Man movies, that you're watching Spider-Man beat up the villain, and then he goes to Vulcan. It's like, hey, I'm putting a team together.
Yeah.
And like, so it's coming. It's that Thanos, like, this is off in the distance.
Yeah.
As we see our hero go along.
Yeah.
Like, that is how you do that villain movie, and it's just holy moly.
But doesn't
it's literally the Nick Fury take.
Yeah.
You just need a director. But
like, like, I find this kind of funny. It's like, we just kind of saw a Sinister Six film anyway in No Way Home, pretty much. So it's like, why are Sony now trying to do a Sinister Six movie when it's like, it's kind of just been done? Like, I don't need to see, and I definitely don't want to see some random person come in and play Doc Ock, who we've never met before, and just go straight into Sinister Six. Like, what? It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you need to learn to hate these characters and let them grow on screen fighting Spider-Man, and then you do it. But like, they're not doing this. Like, they're just like, who's the villain here? Like, let's say they do a Sinister Six movie. Who the fuck are they fighting?
Yeah.
What's happening?
They're fighting people that need help, which is what happened in No Way Home.
It's just like, but like, are they getting like, so Vulture wants to fight Spider-Man. There's no Spider-Man in this universe. Or if there is, it's one we haven't met yet. So maybe it's Miles. Maybe they do a Miles thing, which could be okay. But I don't want Sony to introduce Miles because they're going to fuck it up. It has to be the MCU to do it, like for Miles to hit properly. So are we going to meet another Peter Parker that we've never met before? And then he's going to have to go up against the Sinister Six? Or, like, are they going to just bring in, like, villains of the Sinister Six? Like, Carnage comes back and Matt Smith's character isn't actually dead or some shit, like, and then they have, like, their villains, like, Venom's villain and so on for them to go against. I don't understand it. Or maybe they try and bring Kraven in. Are they hunting down Kraven or something?
Kraven would be great. Kraven is an awesome character to have in the Sinister Six. It makes sense because he wants to hunt Spider-Man.
Yeah, but then doesn't Kraven want to hunt Morbius as well? So I was trying to think, like, where does Morbius go after this?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, like, do they do a Kraven movie and then they have Kraven versus Morbius or something like that? Like, because you got to think that Sony are keeping Spider-Man out of this, like,
Yeah.
Or does Tom Holland's character come over to the Sonyverse, like they've kind of rumored that was going to happen for a while? Maybe Tom Holland's character goes over for the Sinister Six movie in Sony, and it's him fighting the Sinister Six in a different universe, and then he goes back somehow.
See, Finto, like, as you're explaining this, I'm already feeling tired. I don't even want to watch the movie anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, you're beating me down, sir. I don't know. But
Chameleon was just
how much. Oh.
I was just going to say, Chameleon was just mentioned in the chat there, and that is a villain that I absolutely would love to see. And I think it would just, like, have, like, proper, like, Skrull vibes and stuff like that, and it's kind of where we're going with Secret Invasion and stuff like that. So, yeah, I would love to see Chameleon. I think he's a great character.
Yeah, but I agree with Hoffman, though. Like, you need to have these villains kind of show up in an individual movie, much like you see the Avengers kind of start to team up over time as each of their individual movies are made. And then, like, you have them all go after Spider-Man. And as much as we technically saw a Sinister 5 with No Way Home, it wasn't the true Sinister Six, which is what I think Sony's trying to do. Because when you see the Sinister Six, it's all 6 of them going after one Peter Parker. So that's a really big hit that's going to happen. And I think it's going to be, like, I think it should be literally a tragic moment where, like, they beat him nearly to death. And that would be a way for Sony to make a fantastic movie to like really beat down Spider-Man to the point where, like, he has to go in hiding, he has to figure out a way to defeat them each while they're all attacking him, or at least pick them off one by one, learn how to do how to strategize, get into guerrilla warfare, like, become the Spider-Man we all know, who's cunning, charismatic, able to take down any villain that comes his way because he knows he has to be the best Spider-Man he can be.
So, Morbius, you guys like 10 out of 10?
To be honest, I think I'd give it a 6.
What?
Yeah, I would.
Wow.
6 out of 10.
A sinister 6 out of 10.
A sinister 6 out of 10. No, yeah, I'd give the movie 6. And I just think and I'm giving it that because I really liked Jared Leto's performance, and I really liked the first, like, 30 to 40 minutes of the movie. I thought it was great. And then just, as I've explained already, like, it falls apart towards the end of the film. There's definitely piles of problems with it, and then those after credit scenes, I will forever have a bad taste in my mouth after that. But I think six is a fair score, I think, to be honest.
I give it a 7 because I really do see some of the positives in it, and I really think it could have been a fantastic movie, for everyone to see. I just think that it's like Finto said, it does get a little weird near the end. I do find a little bit of a silver lining, and that's why I give it the benefit of the doubt. but there's still a lot of problems that we still need to address. But for someone like my girlfriend Katie, like she enjoyed it, she liked it, only because she thought it was a good movie, but she thought it was really weird with what's going. She has no idea what's going on. So for someone who has no idea what's going on,
yeah,
they'll like it.
Yeah.
But for a Marvel movie, yeah, of course it's going to get a low rating because it had nothing to do with any sort of ties to like Spider-Man or anything. And so like it's a very big facade that they made that just, I think that's what one of the big things that caused such bad reviews is that they really tried to tie it off at the end, which just ruined it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
I'm giving it a 2 out of 10.
I think honestly, right, if you do get a chance to go see it next weekend, and I know it's hard to do and it's ridiculous, and you know, people have been kind of thinking I'm crazy talking about it like this, but try and like watch it and just try and take it as some new content that's just not Marvel, and I think you'll quite enjoy it, or especially the first half. And as well, I thought it was weird as well because like I think the runtime of the movie is like an hour and 40, so like I felt it ended very quickly, and I was like, because you know we're so used to these like 2.5 hour, nearly 3 hour movies now, and like I love it, but I was like an hour and 40. Like when I saw the end credits come up, I was like, Jesus Christ, it's over already. Like, you know, I thought it was very quick. Yeah. So look, yeah, I like Sharky just mentioned Underworld. I got a kind of an Underworld vibe from the movie, like, and I loved those movies when I was a kid. Like Underworld was like incredible to me. Like I loved it. Loved the story of like the Lycans and stuff like that. Like, and that is kind of like what it felt like to me. It felt like a movie like Underworld, or like just a vampire story. Like it didn't feel like it was a superhero story at all.
You know what's weird though, Finto, is I just realized like there was no heavy rain in the movie. Like you're usually you know, like usually with supernatural movies you have heavy rain like in certain points, especially when they're about to fight, and you see this big slow-mo moment where like they're looking at each other for a second, they stand up tall and they're ready to attack each other. There's no like heavy rain, no like intense moment like that. It's literally just like they shout, they run at each other, and they fight, and that's it.
I loved the scene where Matt Smith was like dancing around and he was just like felt so alive and stuff, and it would obviously be like what you'd be doing.
Yeah,
you know, the guys they're basically using crutches to walk around and everything, Hoffman, like, and you know they're falling apart, like, you know, they can't even stand up on their own 2 feet, and then when they take the serum and become vampires they get jacked and shredded, and you know, like Matt Smith's walking around like he's the king of the world and all, and I was like, that's like a true reflection of obviously, yeah, it's what would happen, like, of course. And he's going to nightclubs and he's chatting up women and stuff, like, and I'm just like, you're gonna go out and live your life, like, of course, like, but I just think they made him way too sinister and way too evil, way too quickly. Like, and it's just like he just turned into Jack the Ripper, like in a heartbeat. Like, it was just crazy. Like, I'm like, this guy was like a genuine good guy, like straight off the bat. Like, you know, for the whole movie, he's a really genuinely nice guy. He's looking after Morbius. Like, the two of them are best friends, and then he takes this serum and just becomes fucking Dracula. Like, it was just crazy. Like, it was all over the place. All over.
Let me ask you this. You say that it felt like more like a vampire movie and not a comic book movie. How do you feel like Blade's going to stack up then? Like, what do you think Blade has to do differently?
I think Blade, and we spoke about this last week, and I think Blade has a really good opportunity to be something different outside of the MCU, because they're going to potentially be starting in the 1920s or 30s, and you know we're gonna probably find out about his mother and, you know, the birth of Blade and so on, and then it's gonna just jump forward to current times, and he's gonna be probably messing around with like Black Knight and Moon Knight and stuff like that. So I think while it's gonna introduce vampires into the MCU, I still think it's gonna be a hero movie, like, because he's probably going to be interacting with some MCU characters, so it's a little different. Whereas
it's that connective tissue that makes it feel,
I think so,
like comic book movie.
I think so, yeah. And like, even if you think back to the first, as when I was very young and Blade first came out, I never copped that Blade was a Marvel movie. Like, when I was watching it when I was like fucking 10 years old or whatever, like, I didn't think like, oh, this guy's in like comic books and he's a superhero. I thought this is a vampire movie. You know what I mean?
We didn't have the goggles.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the stakes.
Exactly. But it wasn't until years later I kind of copped, like when I started watching X-Men and stuff like that, and like, you know, people are like, you know, Blade's like from the same, like Marvel, like from the same comic books and stuff, and I was just like, wow, didn't even realize it, you know. So
Right.
I definitely feel like it's going to be not the same story, but you know, I think the vampire stuff kind of sits outside of the whole superhero thing, and I think the AMCU will like bring that all together in a really interesting way. And I think we've heard a couple of references to vampires already popping up in the MCU now. We heard it in Eternals, and I think there's a reference in Loki as well. So it's like, you know, they're kind of sprinkling the whole vampire thing in now, like, and you know, it's just gonna hit like a ton of bricks very soon. So I think it's just gonna be very different to what Sony are trying to do.
So if
Yeah,
you're
they
thinking
also
that
had vampires in Captain Marvel. I don't know if you caught the part where Brie Larson was sucking all the fun out of every scene.
oh god,
I'm joking. I love Brie Larson.
wow.
Oh my god, dude.
I actually really like Brie Larson. I'm growing at Captain Marvel. I'm not even being facetious.
But speaking of Blade again, just wanted to say, like, if they do make him a seasoned character and that we see him in more of like his, I would say like year 2, year 3 kind of look, do you think we're gonna get any sort of reference to Deacon Frost or any of the other vampires he had to deal with? Maybe like he encountered Dracula.
I'd like that. I think it would be cool. Like what I wonder is, I don't know how the MCU are going to handle this whole thing. Like, are they going to go like balls deep with vampires straight away, or is it going to like, here's Blade, he's actually a vampire, and then we slowly kind of get introduced to other vampires? Like, I don't know if they're just going to be like, you know, like I feel like I wondered the same thing about like the mutants. Like, are the mutants gonna just be there one day and then they're everywhere, you know, or is it where you get introduced to a couple and then we realize there's a hidden society of them or something? Like, I think I just don't know how quick Marvel are gonna unload the whole vampire lore thing. Like, you know, I kind of get the feeling that when we first get introduced to Blade, he'll be the only vampire on screen or in the storyline whatsoever, and then it'll be like, when we kind of get some one-on-one time with Blade by himself, then we kind of realize the how far back it spreads or whatever, like, you know.
Mm-hmm. Like, they're aware of Hydra. They're like using Hydra and influencing them. Hydra didn't even know. The vampires are like...
That'd be fucking amazing, dude.
That'd be crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Yeah, I would love that. Or like, you know, there was like a couple of vampires that were like in the beginning of S.H.I.E.L.D. and shit. Like, you know, that'd be just so cool. Like, be so cool.
Why don't we ever see this agent until nighttime?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, why does your man only work nights? It's like, no. He's a bit of a night owl, that fella. Yeah. So look, I'd love, you know, next week, if I don't know, if you get a chance to go see it, I'd love to maybe just have a little Hoffman breakdown of the film and see what you think of it. But
oh yeah, I'm gonna do my best to get out this week and see it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things, and I know because I already have this feeling that Hoffman's going to be pretty harsh on this one. My favorite first reaction when we mention it is him like reeling back, slapping his leg, and laughing hard, and then he gives us the breakdown.
Look, I want to love every movie. I think I've proven over the past couple of months, because we've had some really great movies. I just don't hate movies for the sake of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I am always rooting for these movies to do well. Morbius was a unique thing where I said earlier, and we put this up on social media, where I was like, you know, I'm so happy this movie sucks so bad. And I feel like I had that reaction because I felt like I was living in Crazy Town, where I'm like, how does anyone think the thing's going to be good? Yeah. Like, I want it to be good, and like it feels like it's written all over the wall that it's not going to be good. And I felt crazy on here. These guys are like, oh no, it's going to be great. This is it, baby. This is it. Spider-Verse, Morbius. It's all come together, Sony.
Yeah,
it's like people investing in a stock that everyone knows is going to crash.
Yeah, it did feel that way though. Like, you know, like, and I think this is again why a lot of people are just angry about this whole thing, is because it just felt like false advertising. Like, it feels like there's a case there against Sony for false advertising. Like,
it absolutely is 100%.
Yeah,
the fact that they had the scene of Michael Keaton staring at him in the trailer and being like, "Hey, Doc, we can work together." Like, that stuff from the trailer is not post-credit stuff. Like, things from the trailer are the movie.
But not even that wasn't even like, that scene that you're talking about was just scrapped from the movie, and then they went back and called Keaton and was like, "Hey, can you come back? We need to shoot some other shit." Like, Like, just completely just scrapped everything. So the highest selling points of the trailers were just cut out of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the director says that the Spider-Man thing he knew nothing about. It was nothing to do with him. Never shot it. Wasn't there.
That's
it was added post. Like, what? Just wild, man. Wild.
I really think with Fintos and I's reviews, I can honestly say that if we were to write on the board of like whether or not it's good, I think what we would write is it could have been good.
It could have been better. It started very well and just lost its way, you know, just tried to be something that it wasn't. Oh.
Yeah, the road to great movies is like paved with Sony's best intentions. Like,
yeah.
Just fucking Sony, bro. They can't get together ever.
I know. I just don't understand it. I don't know how they can't just make a good film. Like, they have all the source material there. They just seem to get in their own way. You know.
It's got to be a nightmare of micromanagement from the top all the way up. It's got to be, because there's no one who gets, you know, to that level of directing who doesn't know how to make a good coherent film. You know what I mean? Like, they know if they're doing it at a certain level to make a good film, they can be trusted with this much money. And then it's just these executives get in there and they're like, oh no, we have to shave this down a little bit. We have to shave these scenes off.
Before we go into the rest of the news, because I do have a funny thing I heard about Morbius. Hoffman, give us your Morbius take, please.
Oh, man. This movie is like the most pointless movie I've ever seen in my life. What was the purpose of this movie, man? Like, I don't know if I missed it, but like, I feel like the main plot point they were setting up in this movie, they just never finished it. They just left it open. It's like, oh yeah, whatever. We're just getting in the movie now. We gotta show you Michael Keaton, bro.
So did you like the start of the movie at least? Like, did you think it kind of opened well?
Like, yeah, like it was passable. Like, you know, it felt like a normal movie when it was opening up, right? But then like very quickly it just goes off the rails. Like, it goes off the rails faster than I've seen any movie. And it goes off the rails, not in this, like, this is going to be wild and, like, what the hell are we doing? I can't believe they're doing this. It's just, like, no one gave a fuck. Yeah. It felt like nobody gave a damn about this movie. The writing is just awful. Like, I swear at the end of the movie or whatever, I don't know the ending when it was, he goes, this thing I'm holding up, it's lethal to bats, but to humans, it's deadly. Who the fuck is writing this? It's the same thing. It's just so dumb, man.
Yeah.
It just, I couldn't even have the heart to get too mad about this movie, because I'm like, if they don't care about this movie, I'm not going to get too mad about it either. It's just, it's pointless. Like, who is sitting there and like, we need to give Morbius their own movie, because like we're doing the Sinister Six, right? None of the people in the Sinister Six are bad guys, really. Like, they don't really have a reason to hate Spider-Man. They're not really trying to kill anybody. Yeah. They're all pretty good people at the end of their movies. Like, it's just, what is the point of this? Like, they don't even have a villain from the comic books for this guy. Like, they have to make up a villain. Like, he's not from the comics. Like, Morbius should be fighting Spider-Man, but he's not, because they can't do that yet. So you have a whole movie where he doesn't have a villain that they know. They just have no idea what to do with Morbius. It's like they thought that it would be a cool idea to make the movie Morbius, and then they started writing it, and they're like, why did we start this? Why did we? And now they got all this money invested, and so they have to finish it. But there's no reason to make the movie.
Yeah,
it's horrible, bro. It's terrible.
They were already millions of dollars in, and they're like, we just got to keep going. Screw it.
Yeah.
I wonder like what the original idea was. You know, because this was meant to come out like after Venom 1. And, you know, kind of like before Spider-Man and all this stuff. Like, I wonder how the movie would have been taken if it was released when it needed to be, like before the pandemic and stuff.
I think it would just not made a ton of money. I don't think people would have gave a fuck.
Did you like Leto in it?
He was all right. Like, who cares?
Better than Joker, you know what I mean? Anyway, but that wouldn't be hard.
Yeah, I mean, fuck.
Yeah,
it's better than Joker. It's not his worst performance. But, like, I'm not walking away from it like, oh, yeah, Jared Leto's fucking back in the ring. He does it again. He seems like he's not all for it. Like, he seems like he's half into the idea of playing a comic book character because he likes comic books. So, you know, that's his persona, I guess. But it's, you know, he doesn't blow me away. He doesn't, like, sell me that as Morbius as a character that I want to see again.
Yeah.
I really think he made a self-fulfilling prophecy after trying to do Joker. Like as soon as that came around, it's like, yeah, you're gonna have to work really hard to get us going. And when Morbius came around, we all set the bar super high, and he still couldn't reach it. So
yeah, and he's the behind the scenes things I've heard, like he's just a jack off it. Like he literally doesn't break character off on set. Like he's a method actor, and like what an asshole. Like he literally is using his crutches to walk or to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
like just walk. That, yeah. Like you're not even that good of a method actor. Just try being an actor for once, Jared. Maybe that will do you good. Okay?
Yeah.
Why don't you do this thing where we call acting, where you can just be your normal self, and then once they hit action, you become the character, and you fucking God. What a.
Oh yeah, like he was even more of a jerk as Joker. I think there were times where they said that people got gifts from him, but they were like dead animals.
Yeah, he was like gifting like dead rats and stuff to like Margot Robbie and all, like, and like people were like really worried. And he's like, "Oh no, they found it." He was saying like they found it funny and stuff. So I don't know how true that is, but yeah,
I'd get him arrested. I'd get his ass arrested. What a goober.
Yeah, I think he said he's been researching a role that he wants to play where he plays a pedophile, and he says, "I've been preparing."
What a
like, and he's a method actor. How do you prepare for this? Like, you know, I'm very worried for this performance, whatever it is. Like, you know, it's gonna probably take him down a very dark path. Like,
who goes for a role like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, bro. So the bit of Morbius news that I heard from the week was that it set a record, believe it or not, that it was the highest drop in box office for week 2. It's a record. It dropped 83% from week 1. So like it did like 100 million in week 1, and this weekend just gone, it pulled like 9 million globally, I believe.
Well, thankfully for Sony, they made their money back.
Yeah. Dude, like I just like I don't know, bro. It's I feel sorry for Jared in a way, because I think, you know, the biggest downfalls of this movie aren't his fault. I think he actually put on a semi-decent performance. You know, not the worst like comic book portrayal that we've ever seen. I think there's been some worse comic book portrayals that have come out that have been more successful than this. You know, and I think this was just doomed to fail. Just, you know, just due to real world shit, and just the fact that it's Sony. Did you hear the director from the movie as well had like the audacity to say something along the lines of that it was Sony that came up with the whole multiverse idea, not Marvel, and they came up with the whole spell stuff for SpiderMan and all. It's like, are you telling, like, no,
I don't believe that.
I don't believe it at all. Like, there's no way in hell that Sony are the ones that, you know, got the whole ball rolling on the multiverse. No.
I believe Sony was in talks with Kevin Feige, and they said, hey, we really want to be a part of this multiverse. Is there any way we can put ourselves in here without, you know, destroying it? And Feige was like, I got you. And that was it.
We got a plan here.
What a couple of assholes. And like, who cares if Sony's like the one to come up with it? Great job you're doing with it, Sony. You're really treating the idea well.
Yeah.
Like, you've made nothing but terrible choices with it. Stop trying to make Spider-Man movies, Sony. Just give it to Marvel and let them make you a ton of fucking money, because you don't know what to do with Spider-Man.
It's so crazy. Like, the 2 of Sony's highest grossing movies ever were Marvel made movies, like, that just have the Sony banner on them. It's just nuts. Like, relinquish control to Marvel for all of these characters, let them make a fuck ton of money and some good movies, and then just sit back and take a fat check from it. Like,
yep.
Yeah. Why not? You don't have to do anything, and their name will still be on it. So it's like, just let Marvel do what they gotta do. Like, you know, it's just so stupid. Like, I just checked the global gross box office there, 126 million for this. Do you remember? I remember, like, the week before the movie came out, we were talking about it. They had projected 700 million or something,
Oh,
there was
that
no way.
Where did they get that
such
number
a
from?
fake
No
Planet
way.
article, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I'm thinking like
they had to-
pre-sale. I'm like, there's no way they're doing 700 million in pre-sale. I'm like, there's not a chance. Like, and they've done 126 after 2 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that I went to a local theater, but I can actually count with my fingers how many people were in the theater with me.
Yeah.
It was bad.
yeah,
There was like 2 other people in my theater. That was it. It was empty,
Wow.
bro. And it was like a midday show. Like I went around like 2:00 in the afternoon. But
I mean, the best part of having like an open seat area is that you can put your stuff here and over there, and
yeah,
you can spread yourself out while you enjoy this trash fire.
true.
yeah.
But
Yep.
I got one question for you, Hoffman. How did you feel about those bats just plowing into Matt Smith's character?
That was nice. It's always nice to see Doctor Who just take a whole bunch of bats to the body. He didn't sign up for this.
Again, I thought like Matt Smith's character, like he was an interesting character at the start of the film, but then just the whole thing just went to shit so quickly. Like it was outrageous.
I felt like they really didn't give a solid reason on like why he became evil. It's just like, all right, now he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Like, did I miss it? Is that?
Well, I think it's just like, he was like not going to take no for an answer. He was definitely going to take the serum. He's like, I can't live like this anymore. And then I think he didn't go down the route of taking the fake blood. So he started just drinking real blood straight away and just turned into a monster straight. I think it was kind of out of his control. And, he didn't have the he didn't have the artificial blood and the conscience still in play. And, Morbius said it himself. Like, he's like, this is a curse. I don't want you to have this. Like, it's not that I don't want to share a gift. This is a curse, and that sort of shit. I like that stuff. Like, like I'm a big fan of like vampire movies and stuff like that. Like, and I love that sort of stuff. So, and I think what I was saying last week might make a little more sense to you now, Hoffman, that you've seen the film, but it's like, if you think of this not as an MCU or like a comic book movie and just as a kind of like horror movie, it's not that bad. Like, I think it's not as bad as the shit that it's getting online, but everyone's just trying to throw it in with No Way Home. Like, it's like,
I disagree. Like, I just think it's a bad movie, man. Like, it could be a vampire movie and still be great. I just don't think that the story is there. I think the writing's bad. I think the pacing's all over the place. I think it works better as a horror movie for sure. I think you're right about that. Because it doesn't feel like it's part of any superhero movie. But like you guys gave it like 10s. This is a solid like 2.5 out of 10 for me, bro. This is down there for me.
yeah, I think I gave it a 6, and I think it was like a bit of a pity 6. So I'd say like 5.
I gave it a 7 because I did see what they were trying to do, and it was just like they didn't stick the landing, and they kept tumbling pretty hard after a while. So I totally get it, but at the same time, they were really trying to be as close to the comics as possible, and to me it worked because I understand what Morbius went through for his origins. So like it made sense. He was in a ship when he transformed. He did cause trouble on the ship when he was transformed. He killed people, and then he went back and he was trying to understand and research what was going on with him and why he was feeling this way. I'm glad they got rid of the suckers on his hands, because that would have been really stupid. but I if it was just, like I said, if it was just Jared Leto playing Morbius and he's up against the city, in terms of the cops, because they're trying to investigate it with all these killings and everything's going on, I think it would have made for a better movie. It wouldn't have been great. It still would have been like, oh God, that's weird. But it would have made for a better movie than this like very cop-out situation of like, oh, we all knew that his best friend was going to be the villain. Mm-hmm. It was a slap in the face, Finto. Like, I thought
he himself was going to be the villain because he is the fucking villain. Do you know what I mean? They should have had him battle himself, battle the hunger, try not to kill people, maybe kill a few people, and then, realize at the end that he is a fucking villain. Whereas they made him the good guy, and then at the very end they bring Vulture in, and then it's like, hey, join the Sinister Six. Maybe, am I missing something? Yeah. Has Vulture ever been in the Sinister Six? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he has actually.
Like, he is, but does Michael Keaton's Vulcan, or does he have any reason to hate Spider-Man right now?
Well, he's like, I feel like I'm here because of Spider-Man.
But why?
Like, but the spell would have made him forget who Spider-Man was. So maybe does he have the memory of Homecoming, the big fight that happened, and then him getting arrested on the beach at the end after trying to rob all Stark stuff? Then it's like, okay, so Spider-Man put me in prison, so that maybe that's why he hates him. But it's so stupid though.
You have to remember how the spell was made. The spell was designed to make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, not that Spider-Man exists.
Yeah. Oh no, of course.
So he knows who Spider-Man is, but he doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna lay out the rules to the spell for me, why did everyone get sent home to their home universes, but fucking Michael Keaton goes to someone else's universe?
Because there was no.
I'm waiting for the official answer on that. Because
there is no official answer.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, it's what you have to.
Because it's dumb. Because Sony doesn't follow the rules.
Okay? Exactly. Because there really was no official like way as to why the spell, like how the spell works and why there's chaos within like committing the spell wrong. You know, all you know is that it messes with the fabric of space and time, and therefore things jump in, and then they fixed it and things jump back out. But because they didn't really explain like what the hell that was going to entail, like if there was actually going to cause any extra problems, because everyone thought it was fixed, Sony was like, well, we can just tack on that and be like, well, we're going to add another rule that says that whatever was in that area gets hit by that purple chaotic energy and then just goes.
I think there's too much water for Sony right now. This thing makes no sense. There's no way this works.
Like I'm not trying to give him any sort of like, you know, reason to justify anything. I just like, I really think it's dumb. And for the fact that, you know, it was Vulture out of all people, like, it just doesn't make sense. Because, I mean, I get it. He's out of prison and he's going to go do his own thing. Well, technically, he wasn't out of prison. He was still in a prison cell. So why the hell did they let him go? Like, is it because he was not supposed to be there?
He hasn't committed any crimes on this earth. So they're like, that's the official line. He had not committed crimes on that earth, so they let him go. And then he miraculously just has a fucking Vulture suit 10 minutes later.
Right.
Where did he get the suit from?
He's a smart guy. I could, like, at the very least something. He found the alternate version of the Tinker. And like it should have been more explanation. This is all like the speculation is so dumb because of the fact that nothing was explained afterwards.
Bro, you get paid by Sony right now? They cut you a check?
Yeah.
I'm not vouching for Sony.
Guys, this is not a sponsored video by Sony, sorry.
I am totally not vouching for Sony. I am angrily saying that I agree with you guys. And I'm trying to piece it together. And the more I say it, the more it makes me mad.
So here's how it would have made sense, right? So the universe that we're watching Morbius in is actually Andrew Garfield's universe, right? So in the spell, the original spell, and let's pretend that it's off-topic stuff that or off-screen stuff that we hadn't seen. Morbius has seen Spider-Man, knows who he is, blah, 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 then ends up going to the MCU, and then maybe goes into the prison, right? Gets caught in the MCU, gets put into prison, and then when the spell gets fixed, gets taken back, but takes Vulture with him. That's the only way I see it actually making sense.
Well, because Toombs was already in prison after the events of Homecoming because of all the shit that he did.
Exactly. So if you get Morbius meeting him in the MCU in prison, and then when the spell ends, maybe the two of them are out in a fucking prison courtyard or something like that, and he gets sucked back with him or something stupid. Again, it's still stupid, but at least it still makes sense, though. You know, because there is no logic to why Vulture would go to a different universe because of a Doctor Strange spell, which was to fix people's memories of Peter Parker, not send someone who's from the 616 to a different universe. It's ridiculous.
It's that moment that you remember in the first Doctor Strange where he, like, you know, you hear Mordo or Wong, they're like, you mess with time, you mess with like, you know, the effects of all things regarding time, you know, space and whatnot. And so like it, in turn of like having everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, it's almost like a turning back time situation. I'm not trying to justify this in any way. I'm just trying to make sense of what the hell they were trying to do.
I don't think time has anything to do with it, though.
Like, I think you can make sense to this. I think it's a fucking square shape trying to get into a beautiful round hole, and Sony's the dumbass square, bro.
Well, Sony shaved a little bit of that circle and managed to get the square.
No.
Yeah, they got the Hulk to
cheated.
smash it. They got the Hulk to smash it through.
They cheated.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's just such a fucking absolute mess. It's an absolute mess. And they, I
what
find
happened to the mentor character? Did they show anything that happened to him?
Who?
Thank you. Remember Morbius had a fucking mentor in the beginning of this movie?
I love him. I love the actor. The actor who plays him. I love.
He's gone.
Yeah. And what happened to him?
He died.
When did he die?
He died because he got slashed.
Oh,
wait, the mentor?
Did Matt Smith's character kill him?
Yeah.
I think he did.
What?
Yes.
I think
he slashed him.
Sleep here.
Yeah, I think he did.
You probably fell asleep right there.
I think he did kill him.
All right.
Okay. The only thing, and Katie and I both agree on this. Why didn't he call the ambulance first and then call Morbius? He had all this time. He waited until Morbius showed up. And he's like, now I can die.
Dude, yeah. The movie's fucking hot trash. It's awful.
Mm-hmm.
Really is.
Morbius is like the prime example about why we should not be remote workers, because then people can sit at their home and come up with terrible movies, and like no one's in a writer room to check them.
Yeah. Yeah. Fact.
Oh my god.
Did you see Sam Raimi did an interview this week and was asked about potential future with Toby? And he was like, I just tell me when and where. He's like, I would love to make Spider-Man 4. I'd love to get back with Kirsten Dunst. She's very interested in getting into the MCU. I've heard that
I bet she is.
The failure of the Morbius movie, though, I think is putting plans that they had into jeopardy now. Because I think what they had planned was that one of the Spider-Man, either it be Andrew or Toby, was going to be the Spider-Man of this universe. And now they're saying, like, look, we actually want to keep Spider-Man away from this franchise right now because it's just such bullshit. Like, or maybe just bring in another Peter Parker that no one knows about or something like that. But I don't think they're going to put any of the three Peters into the movie, like, which is... It's kind of disappointing. I would love to see either Andrew come back for another movie or Toby come back for another movie. I think if they can get Sam Raimi, I think if Doctor Strange does as good as I think it's going to do, I think Sam Raimi will have bargaining power with Sony and Marvel to do whatever he wants, and I think he probably could make his Spider-Man 4. I really think so. And Toby is down. He can't wait. He wants it, like.
Yeah, I would love to have Sam Raimi come and do a Spider-Man 4, because it's a Spider-Man that we probably won't get to see in the MCU, which is to say that it's an older Peter Parker. It's a Peter Parker who's like in his 40s, been Spider-Man for a long time. Like it'd just be a great movie because we don't get many movies like that from Spider-Man. Many movies, we get the beaten down Spider-Man. He's old.
Yeah,
true. And then as well, if it's like the whole Peter B. Parker thing, you could introduce Miles there and do a live action version of Into the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
I want
Bruce Campbell.
Like,
oh yes, Bruce Campbell is Mysterio. They have to do it. They have to do it.
I honestly want them to have, like, I would like the Sinister Six movie to move forward, but with a better design. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But I really want that to happen so that they can do a situation where they literally kill Peter Parker. Like, they manage to kill him so that they can introduce another, like a clone of Peter Parker, and do Ben Reilly and do Scarlet Spider.
That'd be cool.
I think it was Scarlet Spider. It was another, cool. Yeah, it was Scarlet Spider.
Scarlet Spider, yeah. But doesn't the Scarlet Spider story take place like way in the future?
Nope. It's still in 616. And he's just a clone. And
I thought that happened in like a different universe and like in the future or something.
No, like it happens. I think it happens after like a supposed death of Peter.
Yeah.
Like they thought he was gone. And so Ben came back as a clone and he was living Peter's life. And he's like, the hell? Like, and then eventually the two meet and he's like, what the hell? And then he finds out that he's a clone. Yeah. And it, like, I think it would be cool. Like, I would love a story like that.
Yeah, I think if they're gonna do Sinister Six, they need to have a Spider-Man involved. Like, they can't just Like, what the fuck is the point of the Sinister Six if not to fight Spider-Man? And I think if they're going to do it, I think they need to bring back either Andrew or Tobey for it. Like,
Yeah,
they have to establish a Spider-Man.
That's what I. That's exactly what I want. But I want them to kill him.
And
So
kill Tobey. Let him go out in like a blaze of glory. Like, you know, I think that'd be fucking amazing. And then the other Spider-Man hear about it or something like that. Like somehow it goes across the multiverse. The news travels or something.
Yeah.
And then it's like Andrew and Tom have to come back to avenge him or something. That'd be sweet.
But when they do, they run into another Peter Parker, and they're like, "Are you Peter?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm Peter." And then it turns out it's actually Ben Reilly because they thought he was dead.
You see, you got to put your Sony hat on. You got to put your Marvel or your Sony executive hat, where it's like, yeah, we could put Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield in these movies. That'd be all right. But what's something that people haven't seen? The Miles Morales. And Miles Morales is a Spider-Man who's been operating in this universe for a long time. We finally start to see him. Everyone hates Spider-Man in this universe, right? Where the villains do, and it's going to be Miles. Like they're going to have to find a way to get people excited about the Sinister Six. And I don't think Andrew Garfield showing up. I don't think Tobey Maguire showing up as the Spider-Man against this Sinister Six is going to do it. Because you're not going to spend too much time with them as characters. You're going to be with the Sinister Six. So I think they're going to have to give you a really exciting Spider-Man in that moment, and I think it would be Miles Morales. And then it's like the buzz for that movie goes through the fucking roof. Like we've already seen Andrew Garfield come back. We've already seen Tobey Maguire come back. Who haven't we seen yet? Miles Morales. I 100% think Sinister Six is going to be Miles.
And we've seen him on animated film, and it was spectacular. It was one of the greatest, like, animated, and it was animated. It was such a good movie, so well designed. Everything was made like just cut like a perfect gem to introduce Miles and to give him his own persona and to not make him feel like another Peter Parker, and just have him do his own thing. Like, because even at the end of that movie, he was like, "I got this. You can go home. I got this."
Yeah,
and it just felt so good. And now we're getting Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 and 2, which I'm really hoping, do really well because I want to see Miguel O'Hara, as, the Spider-Man 2099. And that's going to be fantastic.
Do you know the directors who did Spider-Man, the animated ones with Miles? They got kicked off of Solo by Kathleen Kennedy.
What?
Of course,
Yes!
Yeah. They were probably doing too good of a job. But because they were men, it was like, so get out of here.
She's so dumb, dude. Like, how do you kick off these directors and they go and make one of the best movies we've had in the last 20 years? And it's animated. Like, get out of here.
That's crazy, dude. It's crazy.
Man.
Crazy.
But it's going to be more Irish heritage coming in, Finto, with Miguel O'Hara. He's half Irish.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Love it.
They're coming in.
Love it. We're taking over. The Irish are taking over.
Hey, it's Hoffman from the Marvelous Chats. You guys just got done watching a clip from our podcast, the Marvelous Chats podcast, that we put out weekly here on YouTube. We put that thing out every Monday, and so if you want to watch the full podcast that this clip came from, make sure you click on the video you see on screen or down in the description below. You can go see that podcast and see everything else we talk about in that episode, because we talk about everything Marvel, we talk about everything DCU and Star Wars. If it's kind of in the nerdum and the geekdom, we will talk about it because that's what we are. We're just geeks and nerds enjoying that stuff, trying to talk about our thoughts about it here on YouTube. So if you are into that idea and you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the subscription button. If you subscribe, we're trying to get this thing above 100, and then we'll get one of those fancy custom URLs that people get for that. Nice. And also leave a like on that video so that you can let other people know that you enjoyed the content, and YouTube will share it with people you know or just anyone because it's got a thumbs up. All right, that's gonna do it for the video. That's it for me shilling and trying to get you guys to do stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed that clip. Glad you guys stopped in. All right, that's gonna do it. We'll see you guys on the next one.